Hello, Gophers. I'm Dominic St-Pierre. Unfortunately, Martin is not here this week. He's sick. And we have a guest, especially a returning one. Ramesh, you were there in episode 42. Thank you very much for returning.
Thank you, Dom. So, Dominic, 42 is a favorite number for all the geeks, right? So, it was a coincidence that you had me on 42, and we had a lovely discussion on gatekeeping and stuff like that. And again, I really appreciate you for giving me another opportunity and having me. Hopefully, we'll have some good discussion. Would have loved to have Morton over as well.
Totally, because Martin is a little bit, he's more using LLMs than me. So we will talk about LLMs today. So basically, Ramesh contacted me and wanted to give his experiences and just talk a little bit because, well, maybe we have let ourselves. I don't know. Maybe it felt like we are not against LLMs and whatnot, but we are not always positive. Let's leave it at that.
Yes, that's a very good way to put it. Yeah. So the takeaway, at least for me, and again, I could be wrong, is that the message you leave when you guys discuss about LLMs is it's not a very positive experience. And my purpose of trying to have this discussion and coming on the podcast is to try and share my experiences and hopefully the listeners will take back that yes, there are limitations. Yes, it's not good or 100% of the YOLOing the code and things like that. But there are very good use cases where LLMs and agentic coding is very, very helpful.
Totally. I think we will have a good discussion for sure. Maybe it's easier to have the bad experiences surface up. Maybe that's why you might have felt a little bit like we are not, and I will talk for Morten a little bit because he built a lot of his project with LLMs actually, and I think. I think we are not completely negative about that. It's not that, but it's true that for us, and especially the last episode that just came in this morning, actually, we both had really very similar experiences. Lastly, to look at the code that was generated for us and have to that is still real, and I want to hear you about. First of all, let's start by let me ask you exactly. What are you using LLMs for at the moment?
Great question. Yeah, so I started using LLMs almost a year ago, or even earlier than that. That was during my previous job, and then we were exploring. And all of these agentic coding, I mean, it has been moving extremely fast, and they were just new on the scenes and things like that, right? So what I am using LLM-based, agentic-based coding is exclusively in the current job, which I started very recently, is to build proof of concepts, to understand existing code bases, to figure out and plan. If I have an idea, how do I bring that to fruition, right? So does it, whatever I'm thinking, does it really work? And what are the holes in it and things like that? So I usually, so mainly POC work, but in the previous job, we had been extensively using it for real production work. My current job unfortunately doesn't have any Go code. Previous job, we were exclusively a Go shop. And there were a couple instances that I can share where we had positive experience and other people had some negative experience.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm interested to unwrap a little bit about that because from my point of view, being a SaaS builder myself, a solopreneur, call it what you want, I don't have currently a lot of experiences seeing what is happening exactly inside enterprises, inside companies at the moment. What's happening exactly at the team level? One question that I have is mainly did the usage of LLMs kind of put a toll on the shoulder of seniors developers to now have to drink from the fire hose? Let's be real, because there's a lot of output that can be now generated. So did it add this impact at all where you were regarding the go code and whatnot? How did it affected the team?
Yes. So it does produce a lot more PRs that need to be reviewed and things like that. But I push back a little bit saying, as a senior developer, most of the times you are responsible for reviewing other people's code, because either you grew up with this code base and you're more intimately familiar with it, and as you onboard juniors, they're going to be slapping code and producing tons of PRs and things like that, or maybe a gigantic PR. So the pressure of review still exists. But again, going back to what you said, yes, there is an increase in the volume of the PRs. Right. It does put an extra pressure, but it is nothing different than in a large organization having several different architects and several teams with up and coming junior developers and also mid-level developers.
But have you felt the quality of the PRs to be a little bit low, especially at the beginning, since you are saying, because I'm personally using Cloud Code only since, I would say, October 2025. Before that, never used LLMs to generate anything. So I'm curious to hear, have you seen a good improvement, compared to when it started, and how it started actually at your company? So who decided at some point, what, let's try that? Was that on a small team to create some experiment? How did it, how did it arrive at the company?
Right. So the previous company was a very small team, a handful of developers, about 6 to 8 developers in different domains. But the code base was developed over several years, and then the pressure to be market leading and put out features is what led us to start exploring AI-based, agentic-based coding. So we started almost a year and a half ago when Copilot was coming up, Claude was coming up. So a couple of us took one thing upon each of us. Meaning I looked at Claude Code, my colleague looked at Copilot, someone else looked at ChatGPT, and we started using it for about 2 or 3 weeks. But all of this was mainly driven by our CTO and our need to be nimble and get more features out. The good thing about that is almost all of us were very familiar with the code base. So we could go and argue with these agentic tools and then also detect issues immediately. Does that answer your question?
That's interesting. Was there any friction from one or two, software engineers that did not really like that new flow? Because if I understand correctly, what you're saying is that at some point it was decided that to stay productive and whatnot, this could be used to improve the velocity of the teams and whatnot. So was there any reaction that was not very positive to that?
Oh, definitely, yes. And in fact, I was initially not sold on this GitHub Copilot at all. So for a long time, almost 2 or 3 months, when a couple of other colleagues were actively using GitHub Copilot, I had not even taken advantage of the license that was available to us. Again, this was the beginning days. The agents and the code build, they were all sloppy. And most of my experience was within an IDE and with a small chat window, and it was producing garbage. I completely agree with that sentiment, right? So yes. But these tools became better and better, and we also learned that when the CLIs became available, there was something about this mode of agentic. Although it's the same model that is available within the IDE versus the CLI, there was something different about the CLI that produced slightly better results, at least for me. And then finally, I was sold on it. And I signed up to use Claude Code, and ultimately, the entire organization moved to Claude Code. We canceled all our GitHub Copilot licenses.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So that was another aspect of my question before. So you did see some kind of improvement as time passes, because we all agree that today's it's pretty capable what we have in on our hand, the models that we are now able to use, but it was not like that 1 year ago.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 1 year ago. So there were a couple of different cases where I actively use Claude Code as agentic-based development. So on my personal front, I'm working on a couple mobile apps. So I'm not a Swift developer, so I was building an iOS application, and I didn't have access to Claude Code CLI. So I used the desktop application, and then when I started building it, it got me up to speed up to a level. Then it got stuck on an off by one error, which it could never resolve. And I, not being a Swift programmer, had a difficulty in trying to understand. It was like, okay, I got this thing that accelerated my velocity, but I'm now stuck and I have no way of trying to understand. So there's always a balance. So if you use these tools in languages and things that you're familiar with, the acceleration that you're going to gain is phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. I recognize what you are saying exactly. We interviewed Andy Williams from the Find toolkit. It's a GUI. Yeah, it's a framework to build GUI, and I tried to help contributing to with the accessibility aspect of the toolkit. And to be frank, I don't have a huge knowledge of all the APIs that you need to know to have an accessible GUI. So I had the Claude, help me with that. And at some point I was like, in between C code and Go and the C Go and whatnot. And I was like, wow, what am I doing here? I don't understand anything now.
Right.
So I see what you mean by the fact that if you are using it in a place to learn, let's face it, it's not that good to help you learn new stuff.
I want to push back a little bit on that one. So meaning, so let me ask you a question. What do you mean it is not good to help you learn?
Because you don't know what to ask. When you don't know a topic, it's very, very hard to ask the right questions. And those model expects you to ask good question, or at least be a little bit knowledgeable to extract the right answer that you are looking for. And you don't know if what they are going to tell you is going to be good because you don't know the topic. So to me, you put the finger right on where it should be, where it's really, really helpful when you know the subject, that especially the language that you're working on or the platform and whatnot. But when you don't really know it, might not be the right way to learn.
So let me give you a couple examples, right? So in my previous company, we had a junior engineer who was trying to use Claude Code to understand the code base, and they often found that they were going down rabbit holes, right? But then we had other senior engineers and trying to fix production problems, and we were pretty much very productive in taking error logs directly from production logs, feeding it to Claude, and also being very focused on, okay, this is the area where things are happening. Here's the logs. Here's what I think, and then help me debug this. And within about a couple of minutes, we arrived at solutions. Now, there was another engineer who extremely smart, but they were not familiar with the code base. As an experiment, they wanted to solve the same problem, and they were again led down rabbit holes. Okay, but I see what you're saying. Like, okay, so if you're not familiar with a lot of things, it might be leading you down rabbit holes and things like that can lead you completely astray and waste your time. But if you step back and start from defining the problem, almost like rubber ducking, right? So you define the problem. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm trying to solve. Okay, what are your ideas and things like that? If you approach it from that perspective, would you still think it's not that helpful?
I think it would be helpful in that case for sure.
Okay.
What I mean by learning is that, let's say I never write an Haskell line of my life, and I would like to use the LLM to help me build something and hopefully learn Haskell in. So of course I will ask good software engineering questions and whatnot, and but I won't learn as good regarding Haskell than if I were to do it myself more. So the amount of things that it will output, and also I might ask questions. It's all about the unknowns. When you don't know something, it's very hard to ask about something that you don't know.
But what is the focus of your learning? Are you trying to learn Haskell as a language, or are you trying to use Haskell to solve a computing problem that you're having?
No, I mean if you want to learn something new. So not because I understand what the scenario that you are talking about. If you are in a new code base and there is some bug fix to do, if you are going to explain the situation correctly, maybe you have a good chance that the LLM will fix it if you explain that correctly, even if you don't know the code base. So that's not what I'm talking about learning. I'm really talking about, let's say I want to learn, I don't know, advanced mathematic topics, for example. So since I don't know them, I don't even know what to ask for. So they are not like intelligent tutor, if you know what I mean by that. So So what I'm trying to say is that when you don't know a subject, it's pretty hard to get, a very, very helpful response.
I think I see where you're coming from, but my slight pushback would be, again, if you're trying to learn advanced mathematics, right? So you wouldn't just go and say, I want to learn advanced mathematics. So first you would start figuring out, okay, what do you mean by advanced mathematics? It is calculus, it is something else, it is just the Pythagoras theorem or something like that. So when you define that, and then also you're like, why do you want to learn this advanced mathematics? So it may not be able to completely teach you, but at least it's going to guide you and then give you enough initial steps, maybe a lesson plan. You still have to go do the work, right? Unless you do the work and put pencil to paper or pen to paper and things like that, you probably are not going to grok all the mathematical concepts. But it definitely is a tool where you can ask it some questions, and when it's totally new, right? So you're learning advanced mathematical concepts, you can start with what is this, help me define it, and things like that. At some point, yeah, that's how I view it.
No, yeah, maybe my example are just are just not very good because I did not really prepare for that scenario specifically. But yeah, let's just say that
Yes.
for sure, when you know what you need and when you know how to explain yourself and when you have a way much better chance than to obtain something of value compared to when you don't know something. You cannot even tell if it's the truth or not. So that is mostly where I was going with that.
Got it. Okay, so it could be trying to fool you because it's always trying to please you, and that's
Exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I get that. Yeah, I will give you that. Yes.
But again, if you know, and this is something that I started to talk I don't recall when, but with Morton the other day, I was saying it's very rare for me to use Claude without going to plan mode. For me, it's always like plan mode. I go into crazy detail, give very precise code example and whatnot, and after that, I really carefully read the plan.
Yes.
And I often don't let the first plan, go with it. I continue to chat and things like that. So I think the efforts that you're putting is greatly going to influence what you're getting as a result, for sure.
Right. So even let's say we didn't have access to any of these, right? So when you start building a system, you would still sit down and diagram, try to think through in your mind about, okay, here are different systems. This is what I want it done, and things like that. You have a general idea. You would start there, and then you would go right main.go or something like that, and slowly build upon it, right? So the planning. I'm thinking the LLMs kind of force you to get into a planning mode because you know that spitting out code is now not the bottleneck, but getting the design is correct,
Right.
right? Yeah. So I'm also building a game. I'm not a game developer. I'm just a straight application developer. So I started using this engine called Godot. It has a scripting language. It's very similar
Yeah.
to C sharp. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I know it. Yeah, I know it. I was using the Python version of the script before they adopted the C sharp version before. Yeah.
that is great. And I have made tremendous progress just by prompting and then looking at some of the code very little. I'm almost, if you will, YOLOing this one. And then so far it has made good progress. I'm not saying it is perfect. There are bugs. I need to fine tune it. But what I found was if you work with these tools in a focused manner, right? So my game has about 6 levels. I start with level 1. I want just this one thing in there. Let's go build it. And then it starts building it. And again, I went through the tutorial, try to build something. When you're building a game, there are so many different things that you need to take care of. You're not even familiar if you're an application developer, right? It was just overwhelming me. But using Claude Code, I got so much momentum on this game that I'm now excited to continue working on this one.
But how do you know? Yeah, yeah, I hear you on that. The problem I have with
Yes.
everything that I did so far with Cloud Code is that at some point it's working, all is good. When I start to look at the code, very very often I have an n+1 issues. It's doing something in the loop. So in your case of your game, are you really looking at what they are doing in the update and the draw loops and whatnot? Because often it's not going to be what you would have written yourself. And this is the experience I have so far with those LLMs, is that of course it's working, but when you are really looking at the code, it's sometimes it's not very good. It's just not performant. It's not going to scale, or there is a lot of issues regarding. Yeah, it's doing a lot of things in repetition. For example, in a for loops. Just take the example. What I was doing. Yeah. Let's say just importing something. It was going to have. I wanted to have some kind of import process. So let's say a CSV import, and in the CSV loop, it was doing a SQL query instead of doing that before and things like that. So my point is, it's working, but it's not always the optimal code.
Agreed, but you got to a point where you had a semblance of a program that was processing the CSV, right? So if you were to hand code all of that, would you be bogged down by premature optimization and things like that? So that's where I come from, saying, okay, we have a problem. Let's generically solve this first. Yes, there are places you need to pay attention to. Why write a SQL in a loop? Yes, that is something that you got to pay close attention to. But you had a working program within about 5 minutes, and now you can start looking at the program deeply and trying to understand where the optimizations could come from, and then also create instructions so that the next time you're doing something similar, it doesn't fall into that trap.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes not. Sometimes yes. So that's the thing, and this is where we started to discuss Morton and me. So yeah. So I agree on that, but sometimes the amount of time that we save might not be because especially when you don't do the extreme decent review right away and you let it cook for a couple of days, and now you're just happy because now you have this sentiment of, oh, it's going well. I am advancing in my project and whatnot, and at some point you say, okay, this is the time to look at what we have now, and now you have so much things to do that this phase is extremely not fun. So, arguably, it's probably just a workflow issues. Maybe the optimal workflow is to have it write some code, immediately check what we have, and now do a kind of back and forth. But that to me is very hard to do because personally, I would prefer to focus. I feel like since I'm using Cloud Code, I'm never in that spot where I was before when I was writing a software system where I was deeply focused, deeply concentrated on what I was doing, and just writing code at a decent pace. But this feeling is I'm missing that a lot. So yeah, maybe it's my workflow. Maybe I should really, be more careful and just review everything. But again, I have difficulties to do that.
So, let me try to parse that a little bit. It could be the workflow, or are you saying you're having a little bit hard time letting go of the joy that you get out of cranking out code?
Yeah, that is for sure a little bit, but yeah, okay. A lot in fact.
So should we elevate that to, okay, I know code can be cranked out by this tool. Now, am I getting more joy because I'm solving the problem, and I'm also trying to look at how quickly I can produce good code, right? I'm not saying LLM is going to produce the absolute best, even human beings, right? So I write some code this week, and next week I come back from vacation, I'm going to look at the same code and say, who the heck wrote this code, right? So even human beings are sometimes non-deterministic. I mean, everybody says LLMs are non-deterministic, right? Yes, it is. But even human beings are.
Yes, a little bit, but
okay.
But for me it was kind of rare that, especially for Go.
Right.
I just revived my old static backend. It's been 1.5 years. I returned into the project and everything seems to be good. There's a lot of things that I would like to clean up and whatnot, but it's never as bad as when the LLM generated something that I did not like. I just exited a huge 3 or 4 days refactoring of a Go server that I did not wanted to write it myself, but if I knew that I would have done this 3-4 days refactoring, I would have written that, to be frank. So in a sense, I don't care about the TypeScript code that I need to generate at the moment. But when it comes to Go, I have a huge difficulties. Even though I'm trying to have a good cloud.md file and trying to let it know my style and whatnot. So far, I haven't got great result with Go, and I was curious to hear. You were saying that at your new company it's not Go. So have you seen a difference between Go and where you are at the moment? Which I don't know what the language is, but have you seen a difference?
So I'm really surprised that LLMs can produce good Go code, because Go is such a simple language, right? And then you do while versus while next or for loops or things like that in various languages. So in my current place, we do not use Go, but we use C Sharp, Python, and Node.js. None of these things I've had extreme experience in recent. I was a .NET developer before joining the company that did Go, so did Go exclusively for 4 years. But I'm seeing that it does produce a lot of slop and things like that, but I can catch it even though I'm not a Node developer or a Python developer or a C Sharp developer.
Okay, what is your workflow exactly? How do you attack different aspects? So let's start with fixing bugs. I found that the LLMs are pretty good at it. If you describe the situation precisely, that I haven't seen much of code that I would not have written myself. When it's very, very simple and very when you're able to explain it clearly, I haven't seen anything out of the ordinary. For a new feature, though, I would be curious to hear what is your process.
So there are a couple of different projects that I did, and it was highly accelerated, right? So I wanted to build so I work in the healthcare space. So there is a lot of different kinds of documents that are produced within the healthcare domain. And these could be PDFs, XMLs, and text files, and things like that. And I wanted to build a system that would take all of these from different sources and do a comparison of source A has 20% data, but source B has 80% data, so source B is better, kind of thing. That's the answer that I wanted to get to. Now, to build this system, I sat down and then got into a plan mode first. So I started describing, here's what I want. This is what the input looks like. I want to ultimately be able to compare sources of data. So went back and forth, and then the LLM suggested that we got to standardize on one format. So we take all the different inputs and put it into one format. And then we did some research and settled on a government standard that everything would be converted to, right? So once I had that plan working, then I asked Claude Code to give me an overview of what are the different assets it was going to create, what language was it going to create. I was partial to Go, and I said, can we use Go? And it came back and said, no, Python makes better sense because Go's XML processing is limited and things like that. So that's how I started with very minimal stuff and built upon that, starting with, okay, I accept this document. What do I do next? Right, I want to process it, break it down, and I had to develop all of this code and peeked at the code once in a while because I'm not a Python developer, but the general sense of the flow and what the program looked like makes sense to me, at least. And then this is still an idea that we are trying to evaluate. Can we accomplish this? And all of this, we could do that within about 2 weeks. So this takes documents, it breaks it down, it converts into a standard format, it then creates Parquet files, and then it also slaps Iceberg on top of it. And there are 15 to 16 containers, all of this running locally, right? So I could do all of that within 2 weeks. So that's the acceleration that Claude Code gave me.
It took what, like 1 hour, 2 hours with Claude Code?
1 hour, 2 hours? No, the entire project took about 2 weeks.
It took 2 weeks. Okay,
2 weeks.
For Claude Code. Wow, I'm surprised. Yes. Okay, that much?
Yeah, because there's a lot of back and forth.
Okay,
right? It's a complicated system. So you're doing a lot of work. You're doing PDF processing. You're trying to download models and then have it process the PDF. And then PDF processing is notorious. Yeah.
How many time would it have taken you think, roughly? Like 1 month, 1 month and a half, 2 months?
Much longer. The first thing is probably at least 6 months.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
So even 6 months to even validate the idea, when you look at it from a person with a budget, that's a lot of money for them, right? 6 months and then you don't even know whether something is
yeah,
viable or
yeah.
not. Versus in 2 weeks, we got something, we then can start interrogating this architecture. Okay, it is 80% there. We can now spend time to really try and productionalize this.
Okay, but what it means to productionize this? Does it means now you would take more time to build it?
A little more time, yes, yes.
Okay.
So even if we had built the prototype in 6 months, right, getting to production was not at the end of the 6 months. I mean, I know most organizations, you start with the POC and the POC ends up in production, but
Yeah, we've all done that.
right.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so yeah, it's way more than a feature. We are talking about a full system in a
Full
sense.
system.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm using plan mode for maybe I'm doing that wrong. I don't know. I'm usually cutting down very small piece of a functionality. Let's say I have let's take something like a CRM, for example. Let's say I want to add a CRM module, a simple CRM. So I would probably cut that into one or two plan that I would use the plan mode to do very specific things. And so am I using the plan mode wrongly? Is it there to because from what I understand from what you said, you had one plan for the entire 2 weeks of work.
Oh, one plan that was constantly being interrogated and fine tuned.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, I'm using plan for very smaller piece, like something that would have taken me maybe 4 hours of work. This is a plan for me now.
Got it. So another example was there is a feature that we are trying to build across couple distributed systems, actually three different systems that all need to talk to each other. And I wanted to try and figure out how to add this little feature into the lowest system so it could percolate up to all the way up to the other systems. And remember, I'm new to the organization. I have no idea any of this code. Half of it is in Node, half of it is in .NET. What I was able to accomplish with Claude Code was get the source code and start from, so these are all event-based distributed services. So you start pulling the thread from one end, you know, here's the starting event, something else happens, something next happens after that. You slowly interrogate the code, and I was able to understand everything that was going on and put together that feature pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's interesting for sure. Was the company already used LLMs, for everyone else is using that as well?
Unfortunately, we are still in the nascent stages at this point. Not everyone is using it. A lot of the senior folks and architects are using it. It is being still evaluated. And especially being in the healthcare space and working with PII and personal identifiable information, health information, got to be a little more careful. We are very careful not to submit any PHI to LLMs.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Sure. That's interesting. Yeah. Do you have any tips? Maybe I don't know. Anything that you have seen so far that works really well?
So here's a surprising thing that I discovered personally. I've heard a lot of people use Gemini and Codex and a couple of other models. But personally, for me, the Claude Sonnet models and a couple of Claude models, these have been the only ones that I got very good results with. And the other surprising thing was hooking up Claude models with GitHub Copilot agent versus Claude Code agent. There also is some difference. I got better success with the Claude Code agent than with the GitHub Copilot. The tip is, if I may call that, use the plan mode exclusively and don't be seduced by the fact that it's going to quickly get you something out the door, right? So you ask it to, I want to add a web page and it shall have these two fields. It can do that in about 5 minutes. But sit up front and then have a plan. Okay, what is the purpose? Understand the business requirements. Then you will come up with a much, much better solution.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. Have you had some difficulties with I've seen it. I'm also using Sonnet, right? I don't have good result with Opus myself. I tried it a couple of times. I don't know why exactly, but it seems to be way overkill for the way that I currently use these tools, which is, like I was saying, I'm used to chunk the work that I need to do very, very small, very tiny things, and I feel like Opus has difficulties to understand what I want.
What I found was, and then I don't use Opus because it is 3x compared to Sonnet.
That as well.
That as well. But I've used it in very limited cases when I'm trying to understand design problem. Definitely not for code generation. For code generation, I just slip back into Sonnet. One other thing that I found really interesting was you start with a little prompt and then slip on to Haiku, the Haiku model, and ask it to improve the prompt, and then switch to the Sonnet model and give it the prompt.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so at my previous company, we also used CodeRabbit AI for all of our code reviews. So it was hooked up into our GitHub Actions, and every PR that was submitted, CodeRabbit would do a review. And that was pretty good. There was a really interesting problem, was something to do with an array. I mean, this is all Go code, array within a loop. And it was able to find that niche kind of problem. Yeah.
So is it what you refer to when you say that you are now using the cloud model in GitHub Action? Was it to review PR and whatnot? What are you using it for?
So CodeRabbit AI was a tool that has its own model, and it was purpose built for code reviews. So every PR, it goes through the code and does a code review, and it also learns, so we can teach it. So it's going to come back and say, you should not write the SQL and such a thing. Especially in Go, it might suggest, hey, why don't you use an ORM, right? So in the Go domain, we don't like using ORMs. And then we all know, the ORMs may have a purpose, but anyways. So we teach it saying, in this domain, we don't use ORMs, we use SQL, blah, blah, blah kind of thing. Yep.
But that was at your last
Yes.
company. So now you said that you replaced the GitHub Copilot for the GitHub Action with Cloud. One of the model. What was it also to do code review?
Kind of. Yes.
So, or it's the feature that now you can assign. I think you can assign GitHub issue to an LLM now, and it's supposed to try and do that.
That is true, but we do not use GitHub for our source code in my new place. We got internally hosted GitLab and a couple other Azure DevOps and things like that. Nice. It's a mix and a match of several things.
Okay. Well, at least it's not a Team Foundation server, which is...
No. At some point, people must have moved on before my time.
Totally.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. So yes. Again, we might have sounded a little bit negative, but it's not really that. It's just that I don't know. We are still trying to see exactly where it fits in our day-to-day workflow. And sometimes, for generating tests, for example, I've seen it deleted some code. I've seen it done really strange things. But everyone is talking about that. So that to me is not very out of the ordinary, and I'm expect that it's still just a tool at some point. But I see that it is true when you start to use it. Like I was saying, before October 25, I was not using LLMs myself at all. And it's true. I've seen it, especially because I don't want to build any kind of UI and front end code myself anymore.
Right.
So for me, it was that at first, and at some point I say, you know what, I will try to let it go and generate a quick Go server. But yeah, maybe I was not really careful enough or not giving as much attention and things like that. So again, I understand that we do have our uh, fault in this equation, but it's not always roses, for example.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Yeah, any tool for that matter, right? It's not always roses. People say you have to use Rust and then it's going to solve all problems, and that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
And or use Go or Java or any of these dogmatic proclamations are always wrong. But what I wanted people to take away is this is a useful tool. This is a tool that really you should be spending some time trying to understand the limitations and trying where to use it. And it definitely is going to accelerate a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unit test is going to be a little bit tricky. And like you pointed out, I did find certain cases where it was just write something and then mock up stuff. And then the whole point was to pass the unit test.
Yeah. 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 I would love to have a more how can I say that in English? I would love to have the LLMs, challenge me way more than what it is at the moment. Not always be agreeing with what I'm saying and be a little bit more opinionated.
Right. Yes. Now, just to flip that a little bit, can you critique yourself? And you know that the LLM is always going to agree with you, and it's trying to please you, right? So if you go in with that premise, can you then ask it to be critical?
I don't know. Maybe probably not. I would probably not like that. So I would like that, and I would not like that. So I don't know. Maybe one last point
Sure.
before we wrap up. So
Yes.
I'm a little bit concerned about what happens now when teams start to use LLMs, way more, and now we also have the review process that is also using LLMs. So who's going to be responsible when something is bad? Because let's say the Amazon website was down. I don't know when it was, it today or yesterday, for 6 hours because of code that was sent, that was written by the LLMs. Notepad on Windows had this crazy CV security hole in where it was using the shell execute and whatnot. So I mean, those bigger organizations, those companies that I was in the impression that was doing a lot of code reviews before code gets in production. What happens now that it seems like there's going to be a huge problem?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that one, especially. But what I fear more is leaders seeing this as the new hammer and getting rid of people without also, grooming younger folks. So these tools are very powerful in the hands of senior people like you who have experience all kinds of systems, who have hand coded a lot of things, right? So you can quickly catch them. But the junior folks, if you give them this one, they're going to go down rabbit holes and put something together. But we do not have a system where we need to teach the younger folks up and coming, because that's the fear that I have, which is these management now looking at this and we say, no, we don't need junior folks, and there's no training program to bring these folks in an apprenticeship model or something like that. And yes, if you start producing tons of code, things will slip through. If you have a large team because you want to deploy something within the next 6 months, you're still going to produce some crap code.
Yeah, absolutely, totally. But yeah, with the amount of money that they are saving now, they should leave the junior developers with seniors way more longer. Let's say, I don't know, 6 months, for example. That, like you said, the apprentice model could be reinvented or
Yes.
it was like that way. I'm not talking about software engineering. I'm talking about uh you know in the 1800s and whatnot. The way that you were learning your craft was to be with someone that was doing that for a long time. So maybe we should go there at some point.
I completely agree with you. So what I was thinking was a senior person sitting with an LLM trying to solve a problem, but also working with the junior person.
Yeah.
Or pair programming probably should be brought back. So in which we have three people now, right? A junior, a senior, and the LLM.
Yeah, at least that way, we there will be someone to replace us at some point, because there will be a huge problem.
Yes. Right.
That's interesting. So yeah, not an easy tool, not as easy as the big VCs want us to think that is going to be the end of all problems. So that is another thing that I have a huge difficulties with. It's all the messaging around what it is. It's refreshing to see more and more people, going the other way of the slope. We are returning the return of the balance here. I don't know how to say that, but we are seeing some more and more people that just say, "Oh, you know what? This is good, but it's not going to replace any software engineer soon."
Absolutely. But my fear is the leaders don't think that.
No, yeah, but there's a lot of problem that the leaders are also thinking. It's not, yeah.
Cool.
Just stopping to eat all the revenue of the company and just dispatch that to the lower level could be nice as well.
Right. Awesome.
But we cannot solve it all here. But yeah, again, this is interesting, and I think if anyone that is listening isn't using that yet, well, yeah, maybe try to jump. If you had bad experiences before, those things are changing from month to month. And again, myself, I have seen that the smaller the smaller thing that I'm asking, the better result I have.
Yes, focused work, it's absolutely great. So, one thing I wanted to ask you was you, in episode 76 that came out recently, right? You said you let the LLM cook for a couple days and then you have to now throw away all the things that it did. So,
Yep.
was it literally running for several
No,
days
no, no,
or
no, no.
you just had a
It's
lost
it
context?
No, it just mean no, no, I know. It just means that I was not rigorous enough to carefully check at the code that it generated. And like you said, as soon as there is a couple of patterns that get inserted, the LLMs will replicate the patterns. It's normal. It's the way it works. So if I have one tip myself to give is that don't, at all costs, don't let it introduce patterns that you don't want, because it will be a lot to clean up.
Yes. It accelerates you, but it again doesn't take away your responsibility of the code. Ultimately, it is a tool. You are responsible. And if you YOLO it, it's going to come back and bite you. But if you put in good workflows where you introduce the right, uh, maybe review step points and things like that, checkpoints, or maybe it's time for us to write the unit test. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, unit test seems to be golden, because if you take, there was a lot of controversy regarding the claim that Claude built a C or C++ compiler. I don't recall exactly, but the
C
test was all
compiler, yes.
there. So maybe the test now is worth a lot.
Absolutely. Yep. So maybe we all become testers, test writers, test creators.
Yeah, I was enjoying writing code myself. This is so. I told Martin that as
Uh-huh.
well. So at some point I let Cloud Code wrote a Dijkstra algorithm to find, for finding and whatnot. So I was
Uh-huh.
doing we play board game basically, and we play a board game that I wanted to play, and I cannot see the board game anymore.
Right.
I needed some way to calculate distance between points, and I would have loved to write it myself after the fact. So now when I will still keep those things that I don't know. The things that I don't know that I want to learn. I don't think I will let the LLM write them. For me, is still where the fun is of all of this. So I have a huge time let it go. I feel like I'm learning way less now.
Just because of the LLMs. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not reading the documentation as much as I did. I'm not. The fact that I'm not writing code. I'm losing a little bit of muscle memory that I had the other day. I was not remembering exactly. What is the way of printing an error? I was like, wait, it should be string, right? No, it's
Right.
error, but it was gone. It was gone from my memory. I'm getting old. I'm getting very old now. But the point is, it's true that I have seen it. I have seen it. I have felt it. There was a couple of skills that evaded me, and I was like, oh no, 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 no. That is not happening.
That is true, but again, it depends on where do you want that dopamine hit coming from. Is it cranking out this code or solving problems? And that's what it's going to be.
Well, it's both for me, but I still want to write code, especially if I never wrote it. You know, for for the code that I've been written, since like 10 years, I don't care. I don't care. Let's go write it for me. Thank you so much. I like you a lot. But anything that really interests me, that I'm doing it for myself, I'm not sure I would prefer to let it, even though I would have the impression that, okay, I had this problem and now this problem is fixed.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's as good for me. When you talk about dopamine, I'm not sure I'm getting as much dopamine, as much dope, if you will, as writing it myself.
I mean, yes, you can go to IKEA and pick up a couple chairs, or you go buy the wood and then handcraft it. Of course, that is going to give you more satisfaction. Yes, but if your goal is to create this one beautiful chair, yes, you got to handcraft this. But if your goal is to have 15 chairs, so because you're having a party and things like
Yeah.
that, then go get the chairs from IKEA.
I would build mine and made it build the 49 others.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. That is where I am at the moment. So
Absolutely. Cool.
yeah, but again, I'm with you, and I'm not as negative that I might sound, and maybe negativity is easier to say on the podcast. It's pretty obvious that we are using it, so obviously it's not all bad.
Right.
But yeah, let's be real, and this thing is working. This thing is doing a lot, and it's going way faster than me for sure.
Oh,
There's
that's
no question there.
no doubt there. Yes.
Yeah.
Dominic, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and yeah, let's keep in touch.
Sure. Have a great day. And again, once again, thank you for giving me this opportunity.
All
Talk
right,
to you later.
bye.